passionate, hardworking people here in the city of Gary who are going to help us get there together.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Washington.
So I want to say this to you and to the administration and to anybody that is looking to partner with the city of Gary. The Gary Common Council is responsible for approving financial projects. I don't want people to think, and I'm not saying you or anybody else, but I don't want people to think that all you have to do is come before us and give us the amount and then we just buy in because you all have gotten with the administration. I want to say this to the administration too. We have a president and a vice president. The president and vice president could have been brought in a long time ago and given very specific details on how this money was going to be used. Your organization probably could have invited councilmen to actually see what you are currently doing and to go on site and actually say, hey, we're looking at doing this with the city of Gary. We just want to invite you to come and look at our process. If that process is here or South Bend or somewhere else. But I just want people to be aware that this legislative branch of the city government is very much invested in the programming that goes on in this city, not just as a financial arm to just say, hey, we need you to approve this, because this is something that I think that could have been, that can stand on its own in a community forum, where residents would have been able to come. They would have known when this program would start. It would have been on television. And I'm just asking the administration in the future, connect with our council leadership about projects, because the first time I kind of knew about this was yesterday and I had to leave early, and then I had some questions, and as Councilman Washington said, no guarantees, but we have to start somewhere. So I just encourage that for the community, for future projects coming in, Madam President, people need to understand that we are a council that approves, but we also are invested in our constituents by wanting to know specifics when it comes to programming for the residents of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm going to move forward on that note. You know, I don't want to spend too much more time, again, to my colleague's point. This should have been done beforehand. We had a full committee meeting. We were here for 5.5 hours yesterday. The only thing that I'm going to bring up is that the language of the ordinance in 81, the third whereas, where it states that the concept is for current City of Gary employees and new program participants. Help me understand the benefit of the current city of employees, or current city employees also eligible to participate? Let me get it all out first so we could just move forward. And then I also want to ensure that the language states that the program will be dedicated to City of Gary residents. I don't see, okay, wait. The workforce development benefit will target unemployed and underemployed Gary residents. Okay, I do see that. But I also wanted to state that those 3 staffing positions will in fact be targeted for City of Gary residents. So the project manager and then the 2 case managers, I would ask if, first of all, let me get consensus from the colleagues. Do you think that that's reputable enough to put in the ordinance so that we can ensure that that in fact does happen? Okay. So I will ask if the administration will respect the wishes of the council and add that language to the ordinance. Attorney
Most
Molina?
certainly.
And Mr. Suggs? Okay, thank you. Again, just for clarification, it's just to ensure that those administrative positions of the staff, project manager, and I believe 2 case managers was stated, in fact, will be City of Gary employees or City of Gary residents. So that is an amendment on the floor. I do not even believe that we did a vote on the amendment, correct? So let me review the amendment in its entirety. The amendment is for us to, a new amendment is for us to add, in fact, that there is a requirement for the project manager and then the two case manager positions to be filled with residents from the city of Gary. And the previous amendment that was already discussed was the change into the total amount of the ask. So the total amount of the ask is $1,668,000. Is there any additional points from my colleagues related to that? Seeing none at this time, I'll ask for the vote on the amendment. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Okay.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Pass.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington? Yes. Councilman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment, just to add the context that we would do want the project manager and the case managers to be supported by Gary residents, has been accepted. At this time, I'll ask for a vote on the ordinance in its entirety. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Winston?
Yes.
President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the ordinance as amended, CPO 2024-81 has passed and is ordered. And let me say this. And one more thing, Mr. Suggs.
Please.
You know, this has to work. I'm not 100% confident in the program as what was delivered. I'm going to be transparent, but I'm confident in this administration. And so I ask you, Mr. Suggs, as the COO targeted with, I guess, oversight of this program to ensure the success of it. I would like for the council to get a report out when we are ready to ramp up, and anything that we can do to host, I don't know, a recruitment effort in our districts. We will welcome the opportunity to partner to get that going so that we can ensure that we have feeders into this program to ensure the success.
Thank you. And I am going to go as far as saying we won't be able to be successful without your endorsement and support.
Okay.
And every step of the way, we want to make sure that you're
Yes.
engaged and aware of what we're doing. The last thing that I wanted to say on behalf of Mayor Eddie Melton, this is a City of Gary workforce development program. There are these other things, opportunities, if that, those safety nets for these participants based on the skill sets that they'll have, that's good. But our aspiration is to create opportunities for people to work with the City of Gary and for Gary to have its own talent. So that's our goal, and we aspire to get there, and we're going to do that with your support and awareness.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs. We appreciate that sincerely.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll move forward. We will do CPO 2024-82, and I'll do the overview. Colleagues, this is actually, in fact, the appropriation for said project to do the Workforce Development Initiative. What I do? You gotta read? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
CPO 2024-82, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9604, approving the opera spending plan out of public health negative economic impacts category, including workforce development and beautification project, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green City Control.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-82? Thank you, Councilman Barnes-Conway. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. There is an amendment. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-82? Thank you, colleagues, for the motion. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Halliburton, for the second. And I will do the amendment. Again, same amendments, addition to the total to ensure that they were reflected as the 1.668 million was the change. And I think that was the only thing that we had on 82. Again, this is the companion orders to the allocation that we just reviewed and passed in 81. At this time, I'll ask for a vote on the amendment only. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington? Councilman Winston?
Yes.
President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment for CPO 2024-82 has passed and is so ordered. At this time, I'll ask for the vote to consider the ordinance in its entirety. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington? Councilman Winston?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2024-82 as amended has passed and is so ordered. Thank you.
CPL 2024-83, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9446 and 9578, amending the opera spending plan out of public health and negative economic impacts category for renovation of health department facility, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-83 on third and final? Thank you, Councilwoman Burns Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilwoman Brown and Vice President Latham for the second. There is an amendment on this ordinance. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPL 2024-83? Thank you, colleagues, for the motion. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. I will ask a member of the administration to give an overview on the amendment only. Thank you, Controller Green.
Thank you, Madam President. The amendment in this ordinance was to change the renovation site. In the title, the renovation site was for the Gary Health Department. It was changed to renovation of the Gary Neighborhood Service Center for the relocation of the Gary Health Department. That change was also made in whereas number 2 and also in the third whereas, and the location included at 300 West 21st Avenue.
Thank you, Controller Green. Colleagues, any discussion related to the amendment aspect of this ordinance? Vice President Latham.
Thank you, Madam President. I just got a question after yesterday's committee meeting. Actually 2 questions. Again, not mine, they're constituents, so don't shoot the messenger. One, what's going to happen to the old health department facility?
Okay, I'll defer that to the Chief of Staff.
The amendment, and you know what, actually, Vice President Latham, if we could just,
Wait until it's in its
let's, in
entirety.
its entirety, just focus on the amendment aspect right now. Any questions about the amendment, colleagues? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy? Yes. Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Winston?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment for CPO 2024-83 has passed and is so ordered. At this time, Controller Green, is there any additional context that you want to provide related to the ordinance in its entirety?
That was the only change.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So my colleague, Vice President Latham, had a question as this is the conversation about the ordinance in its entirety.
Yes, the first question, what's going to happen to the previous facility? And the second one, pulling it up, but it was have the residents of the neighborhood, I believe Washington Manor is a housing subdivision close to GNS, have the residents of Washington Manor been asked about the addition of it to their community? Has there been any discussion with the residents of that area?
No, to the second question. And then the first question, we can use it for revenue. People can rent that space out, the Gary Health Department.
Oh, okay, like another organization will probably
Correct.
rent it?
Yes, because we have done some work to it, but it's just not conducive to what we need.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Councilman Washington?
I know there was a concern about building new. And I don't remember if it was given, what was the projected cost of building a new health department from the ground up? If anybody remembers. We allocated 5 million.
5.1 million.
But that wasn't the cost.
Oh, okay.
And let me be clear, that number came up because former President William Godwin and I think the previous administration threw out a number about 2.5, and we knew, well, he knew, based on his industry knowledge, that would not be enough. And so the council supported doubling that to 5 million, but there was no, from what the council received, we didn't receive any follow-up because, as you know, the appropriation was never done, just the allocation in terms of true assessment done, et cetera. We knew that conceptually there was conversation about possibly moving it to various different areas, but there was nothing done in its complexity or completeness, if you will, to review with the council. Chief of Staff Dumas, do you have anything that you want to address in terms of the questions that my colleagues just proposed?
No, well put, Madam President. I will just add, just because of a recent bid we got with the expected construction costs going on right now, the 8,000 square foot animal shelter that we bid on, as you know, came back about 3.4 million for that first bid. That was only 8,000 square feet. So from our understanding, based on the items that would be needed in the health department, we're running about $210 per square foot for new construction. That was the rough estimate. That was not final, including any type of FF&E.
So what is that? What would be like the total amount of square footage that you will be targeting?
16,000.
And so that total is
16,000.
16,000.
3.3, Madam President.
3.3 million,
Yes, ma'am.
That's just for construction, not including any FFE.
which is what? Which would be what on average?
I wouldn't know off average, but based on another construction project, it was running about $100 for FF&E.
So we probably had about enough to do a whole new facility, right? That was already allocated. Okay, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell?
Did we have a reason why we didn't, other than the money? Did we have a location?
No, when the administration came in, we did not have any plans that was passed on in regards to security of a location, any construction plans, any bids that had gone out. And so we began the conversations about what could we do. We first, of course, started with looking at the renovations of our current facility to ensure that we were trying the best use of those dollars. It was found to have much more needs in regards to some of the mechanicals. So then we started looking at other locations that we owned and how we can better utilize that. And that's when the GNS building came into conversation. They started the scope of work, got some bids and quotes, of which came back to even more reasonable cost.
So the neighbors in that area, we need to meet with them.
Yes, ma'am. Hear you loud and clear.
Any of my colleagues, questions or comments? Okay. I'm going to preference my vote, and I apologize to the administration in advance. I'm going to abstain from this vote. And the main reason is constituents being engaged is very important to me. I've had an incident in my district related to Pulaski and that community not being engaged and not being able to have a voice, and it was almost detrimental to my leadership. We have two reputable subdivisions, Washington Manor, which is located in the 5th District, but adjacent to the 4th, as well as Means Manor, as we know is a historical district that is directly adjacent. There's not a lot of traffic there because there's not a lot of activity going on with GNS. I know with conversations that I did have, I thought that Brothers Keeper was in the conversation of possibly moving there, and again, I wasn't going to be in support of that either. And so I do understand the need, and I don't want to, it's just the location for me, but definitely, you know, I supported the 5 million in its entirety. And that's because my phone is blowing up right now in terms of constituents expressing their disdain for not being included. And this is almost identical, and we have the control of this versus the incident that happened with Pulaski in my district. And so I just wanted to be transparent in that regard. But I think
We have
that
to be a big girl and make a motion to table this until the next until we have that meeting with the community?
The only thing is,
What's that? The money has to be appropriated.
yeah, but can we remove location at this time? And then if it is in fact the local, I don't think that we have, then you can still support it, but we just want to make sure.
Attorney?
I mean, I want to give the money to support the health department. I don't want to stop
Ms.
that for
Green?
sure. I just wanted you all to have a conversation and get feedback from the community.
Ms.
And it's
Green?
kind of like, okay, you can give a feedback from us, but you're still gonna move forward anyway, right? If in fact
Ms.
they are not
Green.
in support. So I don't know what the appropriate
He
process.
needs Ms. Green.
Yeah, Madam President, you know that'll be setting them up for a thrashing after the decision has already been made and we come back and ask their opinion.
Yeah, that's true, but I think some type of effort to communicate with them at least should be done. I'm gonna ask Attorney Williams, he did have some insight to provide.
Maybe it is. Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. No insight, just a question to Ms. Green, Controller. Are the funds in jeopardy if this matter is tabled into the new year?
All of the ARPA funds have to be contracted by December 31st. So if they're not, we lose them.
That's of 2024?
2024. So at this point, what we would be doing between now and December 31st, most everything has gone out to bid for a lot of the projects that you're looking at, that you have on your agenda tonight. So it would be just a matter, if it's passed, of doing the contracts. For this particular one, the contract will probably have to be done with the health department. There is an interagency agreement that can be done. And then the health department would do the bidding after December 31st. That is an option that we have. But if nothing is approved by, I would say, the third week of December, that still gives us a week to do the contract, those funds will be lost.
Follow-up question. If you engage in the contracts, what would be, and this may be for one of the attorneys, the breach of that contract? Would there be any penalty if you didn't move forward with letting the project?
So the attorney's not available, it looks like.
Where's the corporation counsel?
She was here.
Okay.
We also,
Attorney Morgan?
we also have our advisor.
Oh, okay, okay.
Good evening, members of the Common Council. If Carl Sender would come to the podium too, he actually is our expert on ARPA. Now, we do have to contract for all these things, as Ms. Green said, by the end of this year. If there's unforeseen circumstances and we have to change a contract, that's a different thing, but you do have to commit it and contract for it by the deadline. I don't know if you want to speak to it.
I would agree with that. And once it's been contracted, you're obligated to fulfill that project. So if you no longer, you cancel that obligation, then I think you forfeit those funds. I believe that's my understanding.
Yes, I would agree. If the unforeseen circumstances I'm talking about, if you contract with contractor A and they fail to, fulfill the conditions, or they're not moving forward in a satisfactory manner, they go out of business, then you can go out and get contractor B to fulfill that, but it has to be, as you said, same project, and you have to complete it by the end of 2026. All the money has to be spent by the end of 2026, or also we lose that money, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President?
Yes, Vice President Latham.
So with this project, we're at the point where it can be bid out. I didn't realize we were that far along. Has there been bid specifications? Are there pictures? Are there plans? Is there anything that point to the feasibility of how this will work?
I believe Controller Green mentioned that you can have an interagency agreement, so you're contracting with the health department to fill in those shoes. I'm not sure that it's been fully, by the health department, it's been fully designed and bid yet, but having that interlocal agreement with the health department, I believe, would fulfill that obligation.
Okay, so let me, I guess, if I still have the floor, just make sure I understand it. We can commit this $5.5 million to the health department, but the health department doesn't necessarily have to contract with a designer or your project manager, whoever's building, whoever's doing the work by the 31st, right? We just have to commit these funds to the health department by the 31st. Or does the health department have to commit these funds to a contractor by the 31st?
Madam Vice President, just for clarification, it's not 5.5 or 5, it's 800,000 now, according to the amendment, if you look at your amendment, just so we can clarify on no. And then from our understanding is that once we do the interagency agreement, that satisfy the contract piece for ARPA. We then will only have 2 years to spend, but we have to be careful with the language. And I'm not the attorney, but the language has to specify what that project is. So if it's renovations and or new construction, if we say in the ordinance new construction, we have to do new construction. Otherwise, we forfeit those funds. Is my understanding.
Thank you for the clarification. I definitely don't want to mislead in terms of the amount. So where are we with this project? If we say yes to $800,000, like I said, have there been?
Yes. So only thing we did was go out. We asked for licensed contractors already approved through the city to make sure that the feasibility of the facility would work, meaning that the work that is being done in that facility would come in under the cost of the requested amount for the council. So we've estimated, they quoted the roof, all of the renovations that Director Collins Ellis mentioned, and that making sure that we will be able to complete all of the renovations for the parking lot, signage, etc., office space within that facility.
Can that information be shared with the council? Am I the only one? I may be the only one that doesn't have it, or hasn't seen it. Perhaps it was given, but it would make it much easier to make this type of decision if, we had more evidence that it will work. So, to know that we could get so much done with so much money, and that the health department, that GNS is a feasible location for the health department, it would just make it a lot easier to make some of these decisions.
Yeah, we can supply what the contractors, no problem. We have them all, what they came back with, what their quotes were, who gave the quotes, all of that information. We'll make it available to the council.
Thank you.
Councilwoman, your mic is off.
I still need to make that motion because it's important that we talk to the residents in that area. And I think that we can still give them the money, but hold off on the decision right tonight. I think we can.
I think that, well, let me ask this question, Chief of Staff Dumas, again, I'm sorry for having a discussion on the floor, but we didn't have any other opportunity. How tied are you all to the location? And let me caveat it with this. Is there a way, even if, again, and let my colleagues know, though we have hesitation, and I do because of my constituents about the location, it is an executive function to make the decision in terms of where they want, so I don't want to not be respectful to that. However, is there a way to just remove the location and just do a thorough process of engaging the constituents in that area? And if you all are moved and they are not given support and you decide to change, at least you still have the funding to do renovations, right? Either it would be, let's say, existing structure, or either it would be, if in fact you say, well, they were in support of it, so we're
Yes.
gonna move forward, right? Instead of having it locked in the language of the ordinance is my hesitation, that location is designated right now without engagement with the community.
Absolutely. I understand what you're saying. If the original language, I believe, just said the health department, maybe we not put the address. I think that was the amendment that was voted on, till we added back and we said GNS tonight, by way of amendment per the conversation, at the previous, committee meeting. So I want to make sure from Mr. Sender that would, and of course your council as well, if we can, that language would satisfy, just saying that the money is for renovations with the Gary Health Department without any address, that would satisfy, and we know that that's going to be the case, and that we would begin those conversations in unison to engage both within your district but also with the constituents in general.
And fifth.
Fifth district as well, correct?
Yeah. Open to the city, but definitely prioritizing the districts that it will directly be impacted. Mr. Sender, do you have anything to add?
I think at this point, since we're coming up to almost the 12th hour, I think that would work to say that you're planning to do a renovation of a facility, a health department facility. I think it's well known that the existing health facility is not meeting the current needs and of the health and safety of all of your patrons to be provided at that facility. So I think it's worth a shot. I think we can substantiate that you're in dire need of a facility to meet the community's needs.
Okay. I'm going to ask Attorney Williams to give insight, and then I'll ask you to approach the podium. Chief of Staff Dumas. Attorney Williams?
Yes, thank you. After listening to the Corporation Counsel and surely that of Mr. Sender, I'm convinced that the allocation nor the appropriation are tied to any individual location. It's simply allocating and appropriating before the end of the year. So with having heard those thoughts, Councilwoman Caldwell, I think it would be okay to move forward with the motion to pass with the amendment being made, or we may have to do another amendment by substitution to remove any specific location and maybe say a location to be decided. But I see no reason now to not move forward because it's not tied to the location.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Attorney Williams. And I mean, I think it's just the obvious. Chief of Staff Dubas, we represent the people, and we have to engage them, right, before we make. Again, it's the executive decision to the location, but if it's defined in the ordinance, that means that we are agreeing to it. If that makes sense. So I just want to.
Absolutely. Mayor Milton would have any other way. The people are who we represent on both sides. So we are in this together.
Thank you. So I will ask for me to rescind the amendment by substitution that was stated and then restate it with the additional edit.
You remove a location.
Correct. So the motion is to amend by substitution CPO 2024-83 with the change of the amount reduced to $800,000 and any reference to a location being removed from the body of the ordinance.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Barnes-Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. We just went over in detail. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Winsington.
Yes.
President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment as stated has passed and is so ordered for CPO 2024-83. At this time, I'll ask for a vote on the ordinance in its entirety.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Yes. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington. Yes. Councilman Winsington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2024-83 has passed in its entirety as amended and as so ordered.
CPO 2024-84, an ordinance for the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations for the American Rescue Plan Act, Fund 2487, for renovation of Health Department facility under Public Health and Negative Economic Impacts, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2028-84? Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Latham, for the second. There is an amendment. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-84? Is there a motion? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. I'll do the overview. I believe that the amendment was just to ensure that the reduction amount was reflected correctly of $800,000. I'm looking for the administration to give me a nod. Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the amendment, colleagues? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk. Oh, do you have a question?
Do we have to strike, yeah, sorry, Madam President, do we have to strike the exact location and just put a location to be determined?
That's a good point. So let's revise that amendment as well. In addition to the reduction to show the new price point of $800,000, we also want to remove any reference to a location in the context of the ordinance. So just to confirm that we have alliance, I also would like to edit that there is language embedded in the ordinance that once the location is identified, that we will ratify the ordinance to define the location. So, ooh, that's some language. The amended motion is to reflect the reduction to $800,000, remove any reference of a specified location at this time, and also put additional language where the whereas will state the council will ratify the ordinance to update the location once determined at a future date. Can I get acceptance on that motion? Thank you, colleagues. And my second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. So let me get a vote on that clarified amendment. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington. Councilman Winsington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment as stated for CPO 2024-84 has passed and is so ordered. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-84 in its entirety? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy, for the second. I'll move forward for the vote. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington. Councilman Winsington.
Yes.
President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2024-84 has passed in its entirety as amended and is so ordered. Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask if we can do a motion to reconsider CPO 2024-83. Is there a motion to reconsider CPO 2024-83? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. Do a roll call on the vote for the motion to reconsider. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Winsington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the motion to reconsider CPO 2024-83 has passed and is so ordered. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-83? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. I will do an overview of the amendment. I will ask that the amendment be updated to also include a different whereas. So whereas the ordinance will be ratified once a location is determined, to add that location at a later date. Any discussion about that? Thank you, colleagues. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you. With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the motion to amend CPO 2024-83 has passed and is so ordered. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-83 in its entirety as amended? Thank you, Councilman Barnes. Was there a second? Thank you, colleagues, so much for the second. I'll ask for a roll call. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2024-83 as amended has passed and is so ordered. Thank you, colleagues, for your support and for going through that with us.
CPO 2024-85, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9604, approving the opera spending plan out for revenue loss category for Gary Sanitary District matching funds, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-85 on third and final?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Winston and Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell for the motion. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. There is an amendment. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-85? Thank you, colleagues, for the motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Latham, for the second. I'll ask for Ms. Brenda Scott Henry or Controller Green just to give us an overview on the amendment portion only.
Thank you, Madam President. There was only one change. In the title, it indicated that the ordinance is for the spin-out plan for the sewer infrastructure sanitary district matching funds from revenue loss. Revenue loss was removed from the title.
Thank you, Controller Green. Just a quick update, colleagues. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy? Yes. Councilwoman Latham? Yes. Councilman Washington? Councilman Winston?
Yes.
President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6-0.
With 6 yeas and 0 noes, we still have enough to support the amendment to CPO 2024-85. At this time, I ask for an overview of the ordinance in its entirety.
Good afternoon, Madam President and Council. The Gary Sanitary District is requesting appropriation of funds to support the 27th and Chase Pump Station Force Main Replacement Project Phase 3 CSO reduction. GSD is upsizing the Force Main at 27th and Chase Pump Station in order to increase the capacity of the pump station. This project has been done in 3 phases. We completed phase 1 and 2. Phase 3 improvements will benefit the citizens of Gary by reducing basements backup in Glen Park, in the Glen Park area of Gary, and minimize CSO, combined sewer overflows at outfalls number 005, 013, and 015, which is a requirement of GSD's consent decree under the long-term control plan. The project, and if you want more details about where we are with the project, we're at 90% design. We have plans to go out for a bid in January, it's a $8.5 million project. The $1 million will offset costs for the construction of this project.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda Scott Henry. Thank you for your leadership on this initiative. Colleagues, any discussion, comments? Okay, seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington. Councilman Whittington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 6-0.
With 6 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2024-85 as amended has passed in its entirety.
CPO 2024-86, an ordinance for the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations for the American Rescue Plan Act Fund 2487 for a Gary Sanitary District under matching funds under revenue loss category, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-86 on third and final?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Whittington. Thank you, Councilman Halliburton, for the second. This is an amendment. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-86? Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy, second. Thank you, colleagues, for the second. I'll ask, I think the amendment was the same thing that we did on 85, and so I'm not going to ask for commentary on that. Roll call, Madam Clerk, on the amendment only.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Whittington.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell. President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment for CPO 2024-86 has passed and is so ordered. Is there any additional discussion on this appropriation in its entirety? Very good. Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Whittington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2024-86 as amended has passed and is so ordered.
CPO 2024-87, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9604, approving the opera spending plan out of revenue loss category for public infrastructure projects, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-87 on third and final? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Latham and Councilman Halliburton, for the second. There is an amendment. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-87? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Latham, for the second. Controller Green, to overview at this time for the amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. In the committee meeting last night, it was requested that we add sidewalks to the description for the infrastructure projects. We added it in the title in the second whereas.
Thank you for your support. No discussion on that, colleagues. I'll ask for the vote for the amendment. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Whittington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment for CPO 2024-87 has passed. At this time, I'll ask our city engineer, William Allen, to give us just a concise overview of the ordinance in its entirety.
Good evening again. For the overview for the ordinance is pretty much just establishing a budget to take care of infrastructure projects such as repaving, traffic signal repair work, and then an emphasis on sidewalk replacement. The information that we'll be using will be based off of our PASER. We've already bidded out the unit rates for traffic signal repair work and asphalt and concrete related work. The acceptance of this ordinance will fulfill our ARPA obligation for our contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Colleagues, questions, comments? Vice President Latham?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to commend our city engineer, William Allen. It feels like he's learning our love language. which is sidewalks and lights and paving. Those are our love languages. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, and thank you, Vice President. Echo those sentiments as well. Any other comments from my colleagues? Very good. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With 8 yeas and 0 no, CPO 2024-87 has passed in its entirety as amended and so ordered.
CPO 2024-88, an ordinance for the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations for the American Rescue Plan Act 2487 for public infrastructure projects under revenue loss category, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, again. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-88? Thank you, Councilwoman Burns Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Winston, for the second. There is an amendment, again, is there a motion to amend by substitution, CPO 2024-88? Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell, for the motion. Is there a second, colleagues? Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy, for the second. I'll do the amendment overview on behalf of the administration. I think, again, just to add the word sidewalks to the body of the ordinance at the request of the council, and we do thank the administration for supporting that. We don't need any discussion. I'll ask for roll call on the amendment portion. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 no, CPO 2024-88 in its entirety, the amendment has passed. At this time, I'll ask for a vote on the ordinance in its entirety. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington? Yes. Councilman Whittington? And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 no, CPO 2024-88 as amended has passed in its entirety.
CPO 2024-89, an ordinance approving salaries and operating budgets for the City of Gary's grant and special revenue funds for the calendar year 2025, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. City and Gary employees, y'all so woke? You ready? Okay. So I am going to go ahead and set the tone. We do know this is special revenue. We've reviewed this in its entirety yesterday. Let me sit up. And I do believe that there was just a couple of funds that we might have additional questions or edits. I'll ask my colleagues if I'm skipping over things that you all have comments, stop me. But I'm going to attempt to streamline this. I'm going to ask Controller Green to give us a brief overview, and then I just want to review those areas based on the notes that we had from last night, where there was changes or questions to see if there was any respective changes, other than what's reflected here in front of us. And I do know that a couple of budgets was given to us that should be included or swapped out. I know Fund 305, we do have those edits, Controller Green, that was brought to us. We did change the packet to reflect the edits from environmental, from Ms. Brenda Scott Henry at the back of the pack as well. And I think those are the only two that was brought to us, just so that we can all be aligned. Okay. So we'll do the overview. Did I do amendment by substitution? Okay, there is an amendment on this, so I'll ask for a motion to amend by substitution, CPO 2024-89. Can I get a motion? I didn't move for passage? Oh, I apologize. So let me restate that. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-89 on third and final, colleagues? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you for the second. There is an amendment. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-89? Is there a motion, colleagues? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. This will be encompasses everything. So We'll do the overview, and then we'll also go into the amendments.
Thank you, Madam President. This budget consists of grant and special revenues from revenue sources other than taxes. It consists of the departments of Media, Hudson Campbell, Recycling, Marquette Park, Fire Department, Police Department, Health Department, City Court, Green Urbanism, and City Court. The revisions that you have received would be for the Environmental Affairs, which you say you received. You have included the Media Department for both constituent services and media itself, the clerk, Hudson Campbell, their revenues.
Thank you, Controller Green. Colleagues, any questions on that aspect of it? Do you have additional context to provide for this respective ordinance, Controller Green?
Not at this time.
Okay. We did have a couple of departments that were not present. The Chief of Police was not here, nor was a representative from GPD. Is there someone here from GPD? Madam Clerk did inform us ahead of time that she was not going to be present, so I'm going to ask Madam Clerk, do you want to review your budgets, Madam Clerk? Elected official, Madam Clerk, do you want to do yours, or we're clear, but do you want to do your budget review? Yes, you actually do at 9:00 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Yes, ma'am. That's right. Oh. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We appreciate you and your service to this great city. And so we did get the copies and expressed our gratitude again for your support, Madam Clerk, and for being here. We did go rather long last night, and so no, we do have those copies in front of us. I do want to go over the police department, though there was no representative here yesterday. And rather quickly, I think the first one was the COPS technology and equipment.
Good evening, Madam President and council members. I apologize. I was here yesterday. I stayed for a little bit more than 2 hours, but I had to go to work as I was already running late, so I had to go ahead and leave. I was unaware of the meeting that was being held yesterday. So therefore, my name is Katrina Walker. I am the fiscal operations person for the Gary Police Department, and I will be going over the COPS technology grant amongst other budgets as discussed. The COPS technology grant was a grant from Frank Marvan, and it basically entails additional LPR cameras and portable trailers that we plan to place throughout the city. The total amount of funding was $264,000. With $9,000 being in other materials and $255,000 being in machinery and equipment. Would you like for me to move on to the next one?
Yeah, we just keep
Okay. The auction fund, that fund maintains the police department fleet, including purchases of vehicles, cell phones, Cradle Points, some education throughout. That budget is down from prior year, $79,908. The next budget would be the police department donation fund. That has decreased by $170,000. That police department funding is spent on anything that entails that the police department may need as far as pertaining to the officers, has to be for sworn personnel. So any kind of equipment or anything to that nature, that's what those funds are used for, and it comes from different places. It could be from a citizen, a hospital, whomever. That's where that funding will come from. The next one is going to be the law enforcement training budget. That law enforcement training budget, it entails all parts, training, travel, reimbursement to officers, education, and it also assists as far as subscription and dues to NILEA to keep the officers' status for maintaining of their sworn personnel powers. That budget is down $26,598 from the prior year. The next budget would be asset forfeiture. Asset forfeiture is, let me see where it's at. Asset forfeiture has increased by $142,518 just due to the nature of the cases that is from different agencies, not named, that the officers work in different areas with different cases. Those funds are awarded to us from their time working on cases. The next budget is confiscated cash. Confiscated cash has increased $58,329. This is for, pertains to court cases as well. So if we have to refund back money for those cases, once it's been court ordered by the judge, that's what we do with that funding. And the last one is, I think that's it.
Thank you. I have a quick question, Ms. Walker. So I'm just looking at some of these particular budgets. The technology and equipment program that has a cash reserve of about $400,000. Also, the auction fund that has a cash reserve of about $204,000. And then the one you just reviewed, which was what, asset forfeiture, that had a cash reserve of $439,000. I do know that the police department has came before, and also confiscated cash, has a cash reserve of about $286,000. The police department, I think, and I'm gonna say from last year, within a 12-month period, has gotten additional appropriations of the following: 1.7 million, I believe that was last year, but I don't think that you all were able to utilize that. That was for the ask for those radios that came out of casino fund. It was $500,000 for this animal control that we gave from ARPA. It was the 264 that you just mentioned that Frank Marvin gave in support of a grant. It's $262,000, if I'm not mistaken. I think the county also gave an additional support. So with this, the cash reserves that are used in these various funds, so are you all able to utilize some of that and these additional needs that you have came before the council or went to the county council or to our congressman to get support for?
Okay, so when it comes down to, and I'll start with the auction fund. The auction fund, and I'm probably going to have to revert back to Comptroller Green, because the cash reserve funding that I was able to pull up only showed $105,000. So that's where that amount is, where I have placed. The additional 204,600, that's not anything that I submitted. So that may be
what did you mention?
I said the $105,000.
No, what was the fund that you
The
mentioned?
auction fund.
So I didn't mention the auction fund.
Oh,
as
okay,
one of
I'm
the
sorry.
ones. Yeah,
So
I only mentioned the
for-
ones that had the higher amounts, which
Okay.
was the COP one would have 414.
Okay, so that as well, with the COPS technology grant, I did not submit any cash reserve, so this is probably something Comptroller Green can speak to.
Mm-hmm.
From my budgets that I have that I sent over, I don't have this on my sheet.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is something she may want to speak to.
No, we can move forward because
Okay.
it is 8:54.
Okay.
But could you, I would be interested in understanding what the cash reserves are for your revenue generating sources. And then I would like the Chief Cannon to give me an answer, or you on his behalf, related to that question. Again, that's well over $2 million in additional support. And if in fact you all have cash reserve, what is the flexibility, if any, to utilize that instead of coming before the council, county, city, congressman?
Understood. Yes, ma'am, understood.
You know what I mean? And so I just want to ask, because, you know, there's other ways that we can utilize our casino funds if not needed. And we do prioritize public safety. And again, we don't have to go, I was curious, again, so that my colleagues and I could just be aware of that if we have this trend of additional asks from GPD in 2025. We're trying to thrive in 2025, right? Not expense as much, right? So Controller Green, again, we can take that offline. I don't even want to.
Well, I can answer two of those questions.
Yes, ma'am.
We have gone out for quotes with the bank, and we've secured a bank that is going to finance the lease And we're in the process of doing that now. We're hoping and working with our advisor to close on that next week.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's for the police and fire department. For the animal.
To be used on what?
For
Equipment?
the Motorola radios.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're having to use the entire amount for both police and fire because fire thought that they were going to have to get a grant.
Mhm.
And we'll have to split that amount between both of them.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll have to get a short-term loan.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. So just wanted to ensure that we, have visibility on both public safety initiatives or departments, and we're giving what we do, right? Ample support on both sides, right? But I do know that Chief Cannon and yourself have been in front of us multiple times. Just wanted to understand if there was different flexibilities that we can utilize with the assets that we have in other accounts. Thank you for your support on that. I think that, let's see, I did have another question, Controller Green. Yesterday in conversation with the media team, the Chief Communication Officer and as well as Constituent Services was presenting their respective budgets. My colleague, Vice President Latham, asked about the allowable uses for those funds. Again, a substantial amount in the cash reserves for the media team. And my colleague had a great point a few months ago when she stated that we're one team, we're one, family and just trying to divide the pie. But I know that we have 2 media positions that technically report to the council, but if we have over $1 million, was it in reserves for the media fund? Look at her looking at me. Is there any support in the future for us to work as one? We are one, in the words of Frankie Beverly and Mays, right? So that we could not, again, depend so much on the general fund to do some of those things. And just because it's coming out of the media budget does not mean that our people report to the media personnel. It's just a support from a funding perspective, if that's something that can be considered for 2025.
We would love to consider it. I think Controller Green mentioned yesterday the one piece in regards to the reserves, I believe it was like 300,000, was only because of the interfund loan that was paid back. And so we don't know what, based on the spend now going forward, what that's going to look like. And so we definitely would entertain it, but just want to make sure that as we spend through 25, we start to realize what that fund actually looks like in regards to cash balance.
Yeah, and we're aware, and we know that $300,000 we pay back annually for 2024, 25, and 26, and so that's almost $1 million, right? And so if you will give us a break for 3 years, we would like it. We have other things that we could be doing. I mean, we like the West Wing. It looks good over there. We want to reflect that to our public visitors as well, right? And so we're just asking for a little bit of support and also just ensuring that it's a collective strategy. Just to reiterate that as we go to 2025, support and communicating with whatever the health department is doing, support with communicating with the clerk, the judge, the Second Chance program, what they're doing. It should be an initiative of communication across the city. And I think I stated that on the record in the second meeting of the Gary Common Council this year when we did in fact support the allocation of that salary to go up to 90-something thousand. And this is just in terms of the task overall. If we could ensure that that is a part of, again, the vision of the city, communicating effectively for all entities and not just one entity. Okay?
Absolutely. They should own it.
Thank you, Chief of Staff. The other thing that I also wanted to bring up, I know that we had an in-depth conversation yesterday, again, about Marquette and Hudson Campbell. We did update the Hudson Campbell revenue sheet. In here, I believe that we are good to go in the revenue. Hold on. Oh, I'm running on fumes. I do not see it. Oh, I do. So, and just for the record, media revenue, even without that $300,000, is still, I believe, potentially brings in at least $250. And does that take up everything across? Probably so. Okay. But we did have a cash reserve of about $600,000 roughly, and potentially year over year. What I want to do? Okay, so with Hudson and Campbell, we wanted to just review the 2024. So the fitness fees was $111. It says the cash reserve from last year that came into this year of about $85,000. The proposed for next year is just a slight increase of about, what, 15K? Looks like it's gonna come from a subsidy. Okay. Okay. So Hudson and Campbell, yes, we reduced that leniency on the subsidy from 253. Good. And then also, I'm going to skip and do the companion for Marquette. It was brought to my attention that the discussion, again, related to the revenue sources. I did rewatch the meeting yesterday, and I don't want to skip over the fact when we brought up the concern related to the revenue from the beach being closed, being almost half of what we usually see. I think we kind of diverted the conversation to only focus on the boat launch, and I don't want to detain away from that. Like, whoever gave the authority to close the parking there, we can't have that in 2025, right?
Already have you.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I just want to be clear because we didn't circle back. We kind of focused so much on the boat launch and it being $75,000, et cetera. So just, I know, Chief of Staff, you've done a yeoman's job in ensuring that, but whoever is in the position to ensure from an organizational standpoint, we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. I don't know what the problem was, but we depend on that particular revenue.
And I believe also Councilwoman Vice President's points to do a I think you talked about a leading up to the season conversation. So that would be something next year we can also reassure before the season even starts.
Thank you, Chief of Staff. Just reiterating, our efforts is only to support and help. I also wanted to make it clear about comments related to the assistant manager. The council knows their authority, right? In terms of, and this is not the Chief of Staff, this is just commentary that I know was discussed. And so the discussion about the $38,000 salary for the assistant manager was because I see the individual out there, and this is the role. I'm not even going to make it personal. The role itself, they're there until midnight, 1 o'clock. And I know that when we reviewed the operational budget, when we asked, how do we decipher, it was subjective. We know that we increased the young lady who is the administrative assistant at the front desk in the mayor's office because she was going to be answering phones late. But someone who we know is going to be doing labor into the midnight hour, for them not to be considered, that's the reason why I brought that up on the floor. And I just wanted that to be understood by anybody who had a question related to that, okay? But I do see that you all kept it there, but I would just ask for future state, because of the complexities, that be given some consideration, because I think that's unfair. We have, again, increased administrative positions, but not, and that's at the discretion of the administration, but I wouldn't be doing my due diligence as a fiscal agent, not bringing that to point, especially being in compliance with the rule and the way that we interpreted it during the budget season, okay? Thank you, Chief of Staff, for that. And we changed the language there. Fire. Yeah, so I'm going to move ahead real quick. I had thought that there was going to be an additional position in the Warming and Cooling Center. I know that I had asked that, but when I looked at the community development budget, I didn't see that. So I know that that's bringing in CPO
Director
2490.
Director Hatcher can explain that additional position that we talked about in regards to the Warming and Cooling Center. So there's already one position there that's full-time. The additional position is on community development block. Can you explain?
I just want to know, Representative Hatcher, the respective program budget that it's at, because it was oversight on my part yesterday.
For the Warming and Cooling Center. Yes, everybody kind of snickered when I came up because I talked for a long time yesterday, apparently. So for the Warming and Cooling Center, yes, we have a position on our budget for a second program coordinator. We have Ms. Gloria Spears that's already in one of those positions, and so we have a second position in place as support or to work in tandem with Ms. Spears at the Warming and Cooling Center / Domestic Violence, Women and Children Shelter.
Okay. So it's in yours.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
missed it. Dang. I thought I was gonna be perfect this season. I missed it. It's okay. All right, thank you.
All the time. Is that all?
Yeah, that's all I
Okay,
had.
thank you.
Colleagues, any questions, comments, concerns? Yeah. So anything that was in differential from yesterday, we did discuss those changes that was presented to us, and anything else that you might have had in conversation that you wanted to bring up prior to securing your vote. Okay, yeah. No. The Warming and Cooling Center is under Health Department. It's in the special revenue budget. Vice President Latham.
Thank you. Our Director Hatcher, I did receive a text message and a phone call with questions about the Warming and Cooling Center / shelter. The first, and this is not, again, this is in my understanding, don't shoot the messenger. But I think that there is an understanding that the domestic violence victims will be housed upstairs in the warming center, and there's a concern about safety.
Okay, so the Warming and Cooling Center is set up where on the first floor, there's kind of open seating with a couple of TVs and a small kitchen. On the second floor, there are 2 long rooms, one on either side, that have the cots and those kind of things in them. Really, we are continuing to use the Monroe Center as a warming and cooling center when needed. However, the primary purpose of the Monroe Center is a domestic violence, women and children shelter. So one would take priority over the other. If that happened, if we had a domestic violence or a family that's there in the shelter during one of the periods below 32 or above, what's the heat? 89 degrees and above, we would find a different location for those people to go to either stay cool or stay warm. That would be one of the other shelters that have been set up in the city. So either library or police department, whatever works.
Thank you. And then there's some misunderstanding about the current building or the previous shelter, where the previous shelter was located, I guess on Massachusetts. Is it empty?
I think that's Connecticut.
On Connecticut?
Yeah, it's empty. There are some things that we are going to be moving from that location that was there for the setup at one time to the Monroe Center. But yes, it's empty.
And then what is going to be the use for the building?
That is a chief of staff question.
The administration is still evaluating. The thing about it is, as we talked about, the building was never finished. And so when the administration came in, we quickly began to use our resources to have it assessed, meaning our building department, as well as their expertise with our building inspectors. We discovered that the boiler was completely gone, as well as the theft of the air handling units. And the cost began to add up, as well as some of the construction was not completed. So right now, the building wouldn't be able to be used and housed for anybody in its current state. So right now, we're evaluating that as an administration for the proper use of it.
Okay, so just to be clear, the current shelter is not habitable or not ready to be open?
Not ready at all.
The building
No.
is not ready at all? Okay. And then as far as providing shelter resources for our domestic violence victims, this was a phone call that I received. The problem that could be created if we only allow domestic violence victims, I think the message yesterday was that we would only provide temporary housing, which would be 2 to 3 days. However, then find them resources. In other parts of the city, in other parts of the region, apparently Valparaiso came up. the concern from the caller that I received was that if there are children in school, if these women are working, it would be very hard for them to get from Valparaiso to, it's more of a displacement than it is sheltering.
Sure, and one of the biggest issues that we found is that it is difficult to shelter for more than 48 hours because we need additional resources. And even though we have the funding through community development to do the work of the shelter, which included the renovation and rehabilitation of that fire station, our funds for actual operation are minimal through community development. And so what we did was we allocated those funds in the best way that we could, which was to say we could house somebody for 48 hours, but they would have to get out to another shelter transitionally somewhere else. Now, in the meantime, while the Rainbow Shelter has been closed for all of these years, most of the people who have called in for help, if you are not a man, men usually are turned to Brother's Keeper. But if you are a woman, if you are a woman with children, or if you are a female domestic violence victim, then you were able to take a voucher or some other kind of funding from other grants that came in and using those at local hotels. Actually, I was on a call with HUD yesterday, and the preference or the lean now is towards using hotels for shelter and funding those hotels, because shelters have to go through so much to keep people safe, to make sure they're fed, to make sure they have adequate privacy, that they're finding that these lower cost hotels is a better alternative. And that's kind of the trend that HUD is going into now. So even though we have this shelter and we know it's needed in our community, we also know that for longer term stays, there has to be a different solution. And so that's why those long-term shelters are so important to us. And yes, families will be displaced, but at the same time, they'll be safe where we send them to. And I think that's the ultimate goal. We want to make sure these people are safe. We want to make sure the kids are safe. So even if they have to be pulled from school or have to be pulled from a specific job, our number one goal is to make sure that they're safe where they are.
Deeply appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Talking about, can I add something? Where you come from?
I just popped up. No, I just.
Of course, Mayor.
No, I appreciate it.
And let me be clear, Mayor. We are. I know that Ms. Hatcher just gave us insight in terms of elements in terms of her program and focus, but we haven't gotten to her ordinance yet. We are talking about special revenue, but please provide your commentary related to the topic.
No, and I apologize. My son had his first freshman basketball game, so I didn't want to miss that. So I appreciate the opportunity to come in for our last meeting of this season. One of the main things that I've expressed to Representative Hatcher or Director Hatcher and many of our team members is that as a city, we have to really work with our partners to provide the services, and pulling them to the table and having a really in-depth conversation on how do we support families holistically, especially in domestic violence situations. So how do we further support with the community development dollars that we do have federally in supporting organizations like Sojourner Truth House and others that provide those services? A lot of folks may not realize, and I think she touched on it, but I want to make sure we put a fine point on it, that the current shelter has been closed for over 5 years. So what we're trying to do is provide a solution now, especially with the federal funds that was implemented in the Monroe Center. That was originally supposed to be for the Warming and Cooling Center, but due to conversations with HUD, we have to follow the guidelines and regulations that they put forth. So I just want the public to know that this is definitely a priority of the administration, but it's going to take a collaboration of our partners that specialize in providing these services. The city does not specialize in providing that service. I think historically, our team has done a great job. Mrs. George, Tashesia George, without having a physical shelter to direct women to in the city of Gary that we own, and providing those resources, toiletries, and other supplemental support things. So I just want to make sure folks realize that that support will continue to happen as we try to figure out where do we go for the future.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, we have a motion on the floor. Again, is for the passage of CPO 2024-89 and also the amendment portion. At this time, I'll ask for a vote on the amendment only. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington? Yes. Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the amendment for CPO 2024-89 has passed and is so ordered. At this time, colleagues, I'll move forward. No discussion on the consideration of the ordinance in its entirety. CPO 2024-89. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2024-89 as amended has passed and is so ordered.
CPL 2024-90, an ordinance approving salaries and operating budgets for the City of Gary's Community Development Block Grant Program, Emergency Solutions Grant, Home Program Grant, and Foreclosure Prevention Grant Program for the program year 2024 and fiscal year 2024 through 2025. Sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-90 on third and final? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Can I get a second? Thank you, Councilman Whittington, for the second. That should be an amendment for CPO 2024-90. Attorney Molina is still here, hanging in there. Attorney Molina, there should have been an amendment for 2024-90, I believe. We don't have the amended ordinance. I'll still move forward. Is there a motion to amend by substitution CPO 2024-90? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, colleagues, for the second. Controller Green, do you want to do overview on the amendment, or Chief of Staff Dumas?
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. In the amendment that was sent out this morning around 11 a.m. No?
It's not in our packet.
I'm sorry?
It's not in our packet. There was only certain sections that was amended, though. Is that correct?
It was only the code enforcement section. We changed the name of inspector to code enforcement officer. We increased the new position from $30,000 to $39,800. There was some addition mistakes in the home rehab administration budget. We made sure that those were corrected and accurate. And those were your notes from last night.
One second. Okay, so the only salary adjustments was for the change of that new code enforcement position to reflect the same as the other ones?
Yes, Madam President, and you indicated a desire to increase the salaries of the code enforcement officers.
And let me get clarification for that. It was a suggestion.
Well,
I
it's
know
okay.
my powers and duties, because clearly people think that I don't understand my powers and duties after 5 years.
It was,
but it's a
and
collective
we welcomed
effort.
it.
Yeah,
We welcomed the
it's a collective effort.
suggestion.
Yeah.
However, in our review of the overall and total budget, we did increase those positions from 32, where they were before, to the 39,800. And we were concerned about making any further increases. HUD will look at each one of the increases that we made in each one of the salaries, and they gave us their feedback already on that.
Okay.
And so you might see something next year.
Thank you. Thank you for the detail and at least for taking our suggestion. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to ask my colleagues any questions for. It is so hard for me not to refer to you as representative, and it's so odd. It's okay. I talk to all the
Reagan
time.
is
Say
fine.
Reagan is
Reagan
that.
is fine.
But in this formal questions, comments for my colleagues. Going once, Councilman Washington.
Yes, Madam President, and this may be for the Chief of Staff or the Mayor. My question is, while State Representative Reagan Hatcher is in the legislative session, who's going to be responsible for fulfilling those duties of community director?
We got a highly capable deputy that's in that position right now that's been shadowing and helping kind of design and implement every single program that's been put in place. So I'm not sure if she's here tonight, but we definitely can make sure we introduce her to the council members so you can have access to her.
Now, is she a contractor?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Colleagues, any other questions or comments?
That's it.
Good. Okay. This is the vote on the amendment portion of CPO 20.
Oh, one more question. Want to be sure. Because this is the position, her position is community director, and is funded by the federal government, would there be a conflict with the Hatch Act, with her being a state representative and also getting a salary from being the director of HUD?
We've already talked to HUD, got the clearance, have it in writing, so we've already did that due diligence.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Councilman Washington, for your questions. Members of the body, any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I had a comment. Last night I commented on when Councilwoman Ivy mentioned about the ramps. And I said that we had so many citizens that are used to getting their roofs repaired, their windows done and everything. We don't do those things anymore. But I looked at this budget and we gave nice raises, which really could have been used to do something else. That's all.
Do you mind if and I did address the issue with our programming last night. We have held 2 open meetings for contractors to come and learn how to contract with community development through the federal agency, as they have to be approved by them. And that's why right now we're only taking emergency repairs from homeowners. If we receive any contractors, and I kind of made this plea last night, we're looking for any contractors that are licensed in the city of Gary, that are insured and bonded, and have gone through the federal program through SAMS.gov. We are certainly happy to meet you, and we ask that you continue to promote our RFPs as we put them out. Even for the emergency rehabs, we have to put out RFPs. So please, if you know anyone, please send them our way. The money for administration is completely separate from the money for the actual programming. So that money is there. If we can re-implement the program, the raises for across the board that we have do not impact our ability to continue with those programs. We did not want to leave them out there and let citizens think that that's something that we could do at this time, because we just don't have the capacity to do it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying you simply don't have the ability to do any of those right now?
We don't have the contractors to do the work right now. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. If we had the contractors, we put out 10 homes for small residential repairs, windows, some roof repair, some floor repair for 10 or 11 separate homes 3 times since I've been in community development since July. We do not receive quotes from contractors, and we have advertised them in all the right places. We have used Mr. Hawkins' contractor list to email them out directly, but it's just a second level of scrutiny that comes with HUD rehab that a lot of contractors just don't like to deal with.
Thank you.
Do
Ms.
you
Hash-
think, can I?
Yes, of course.
Do you think that you could get with those people over there and train our citizens to do what you need to be
I
done?
would love for them to send me licensed, bonded, and insured contractors. Our problem is that we don't have the flexibility to work with those that don't have those requirements already done. And so because it's HUD dollars and federal dollars, and I know Councilwoman Latham alluded to this last night, our compliance piece in community development, our level is really high. And so we can't, everything has to be right before we can spend $1. And we are committed to that, and we will committed to not cutting corners for that.
Excuse me. So then do you have an opportunity to tell those persons who apply that you are under those kinds of restrictions?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I get an awful lot of calls from people who need a roof or furnace or
Yes,
something,
ma'am.
and they've come to community development and not been able to get any service.
That's absolutely right. And so many of those stories break my heart just to hear the need that's out there for that kind of service. And so what we've done is we have one contractor who has agreed to work on an emergency basis. So these are things like if your heat goes out in the middle of the night, we can still do emergency HVAC. If a tree goes through your roof and you need it patched temporarily before you can get a roofer out, we have one guy that we can call on to get those things done. But for the ramp program, it's a different ballgame. That is separate money, and that's a separate program. And there are special organizations that build ramps. So that's something that's always available. It's the request for the roofs and the windows and those kind of things that we cannot service at this time.
Madam President, may I ask a question or a suggestion?
Of course, Councilman.
I had a similar issue with Federal Home Loan Bank, especially when it came to the city of Gary. One thing that we implemented that was really useful, I'm not sure your draw schedule, but we were able to do 50% up front and 50% after. And that helped incentivize contractors because we've heard the stories over the previous years. It's hard to get licensed, certified in the city of Gary, a lot of stipulations. You deal with federal groups. It's a big headache, but we discovered that pay down of 50-50 helped incentivize contractors to know they were getting guaranteed money to begin with.
Yeah, unfortunately, HUD doesn't work that way because we have to do the initial inspection, and then the inspection has to be completed after the work is done in order for us to be able to pay that contractor. And you're absolutely right. Many contractors need the half up front just to buy the material or to hire the guys that he needs for the job or she needs for the job. And so it puts us in a really difficult position.
Thank you.
But I do thank you all for the questions, because I think this is really important for people to hear and understand why we're unable to execute or administer that program at this time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilwoman Ivy.
Reagan, I would like to ask, are you in communication with the Lake County Community Development Office?
Yes, we are.
Are they having the same issues?
Well, I'm not sure about Lake County, but East Chicago and Hammond, on our last HUD visit, they indicated that they were also having the same problems, trying to find qualified contractors to make sure that they are able to execute those programs. So many of those programs have gone on suspended status. That's where ours is right now as well. So it's an issue. It's not just a Gary issue.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that and clarifying the funding for the ramps versus the salary increase.
Absolutely. So that's
Thank you.
completely separate.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy. Colleagues, any additional comments, questions? Thank you, Ms. Hatcher, for indulging the colleagues.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't think we've had the vote on the amendment at this point. Okay, so I'll ask for the roll call on the vote. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
No.
Councilman Winston?
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 7 yes, 1 no.
With 7 yeas and 1 no, CPO 2024-90 as amended, the amendment has passed. At this time, I'll ask for a vote of the ordinance in its entirety. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? No. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
No.
Councilman Winston?
Yes.
President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6 yes, 2 no.
With 6 yeas and 2 no, CPO 2024-90 as amended passed and so ordered.
Madam President, ends pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Attorney Williams, is it appropriate for me to ask to suspend the rules on all of these collectively to consider on third and final? Or do I have to do those individual?
Without objection, be fine.
Colleagues, is there any objection for us to do these in tandem? Again, we have 5 ordinances that was submitted for first reading and now second reading. However, this is the last meeting and convening of the Gary Common Council. It's okay if we do these together to suspend the rules for consideration? Is there any objection? Seeing none, I will ask for the following. Is there a motion to suspend the rules to consider the following ordinance numbers on third and final this evening? CPO 2024-91, CPO 2024-92, CPO 2024-93, CPO 2024-94, and CPO 2024-95. Is there a motion? Thank you, Councilman Barnes-Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Winston and Councilman Halliburton for the second. At this time, I ask for the vote. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham? Yes. Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Winston?
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 noes, the following ordinances have been approved by the council to be considered on third and final tonight. CPO 2024-91, 92, 93, 94, and 95.
CPO 2024-91, an ordinance by the Gary Common Council establishing a holiday schedule for the city of Gary in the calendar year 2025, sponsored by members of the Gary Common Council.
Yeah, colleagues, so it was in a separate envelope, I believe, from the main packet, and it was just those 5. Just want to make sure everybody has those so we can go through it. A thinner packet that was on your desk, possibly behind your minutes. If you had the minutes, then they should have been behind the minutes. Okay. Waiting on my vice president. Yeah, keep looking. You got it? Very good. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-91 on third and final? There is a motion and a second. Motion by Councilman Barnes-Caldwell, second by Councilman Halliburton. So this will give, so actually, I don't think that the 2026 New Year's Day should be on here. We only approve for the respective calendar year. Was it like that on the one that you all used as an example?
Yes, ma'am. It was because of, I believe, the first common council meeting is not until after the following. We just took the same ordinance from the previous year and copied.
Wow. Okay, so what's the total?
Minus the election days, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have 15 holidays during the year of 2025, and then on here is also the New Year's Day for 2021. Thankfully, 2025 is not an election year for anyone, I don't think, and so we will have a break in that regard. Colleagues, there's been a motion, has been second out. If there's any discussion, seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Yes. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Winsington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 no's, TPL 2024-91 has passed and is so ordered.
CPL 2024-92, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9604, approving the ARPA spending plan out of public health and negative economic impacts category, including housing development in the city of Gary, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salita Green, City Controller, Councilwoman Ty Atkins, 4th District.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPL 2024-92 on third and final? Thank you, Councilman Brown-Caldwell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, colleagues, for the second. I'll do the overview briefly. Colleagues, this is an effort to partner with the administration to support a housing initiative. As we know, one of the main opportunities that I believe that we have that we probably had not capitalized with on the ARPA funding was to ensure that we were having some type of impact to generate funding back to the revenue source, which is our tax base, right? And so this is an opportunity for us to do two things. One, support the need that we have to increase rooftops here in the city of Gary, use it as a attraction tool for young families or people who are looking to move to have single family homes. And then also, as I stated earlier, to ensure that we get properties back to the tax base with this. Looking forward to working with the administration, layering the projects that we have in community development from a housing perspective, as well as working with the economic development effort, as well as redevelopment to develop a strong program to optimize the use of these funds for a housing initiative here in the city of Gary. Any questions, comments?
I did have a quick question, Madam President.
Councilman Winsington.
If I'm not mistaken, this is a fixed price for these houses?
There is no determination on that at this point.
Okay. That's just one thing that I'm really passionate about, especially in the city of Gary, is ensuring that, the value of these homes that we do construct, individuals will be moving in with equity. And in conjunction with community development, I think leveraging those tools that we have, this could be very beneficial to our community. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Vice President Latham. Okay, thank you, colleagues. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy. Councilwoman Latham.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Winsington.
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 7-0.
A vote of 7 yeas and 0 no's. CPL 2024-92 passed and is so ordered. Thank you, Mayor Melton, and your team for your support on this effort.
CPL 2024-93, an ordinance for the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations for the American Rescue Plan Act Fund 2487 for new housing development in the City of Gary under public health and negative economic impacts, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salita Green, City Controller.
Is there a motion to pass CPL 2024-93 on third and final? Thank you, Councilman Brown-Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you for the second. And colleagues, again, I'll do the overview. This is just the complementary appropriation ordinance to support the housing development initiative that we just discussed in 92. Any questions? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Yes. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
A vote of 8 yeas and 0 no's. CPL 2024-93 has passed and is so ordered.
CPO 2024-94, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9604, approving the ARPA spending plan out of negative economic impacts, assistance to individual categories, including housing opportunities, down payment assistance, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you again, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to pass CPL 2024-94 on third and final? Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second? Thank you. Councilwoman Ivy is going to say my councilwoman at large. Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy, for the second. I was looking to see Ms. Hatcher going to do the overview?
Thank you, Madam President. This is an additional allocation for our down payment assistance program. Last night, we talked a little bit about Gary First and the housing initiative in Emerson, and now also the Etna neighborhood here in our great city of Gary. This down payment allocation will help those persons who are interested in building a brand new home here in Gary to get the built-in equity that Councilman spoke of. $30,000 for police, fire, $18,000 for City of Gary employees, and for all else who plan to live in the house for 5 years at least, we're giving 6% up to $10,000 as down payment assistance. And so we just wanted to make sure the money and the funding was there for the great rush that we're going to get for the program.
Thank you again, Ms. Hatcher. Colleagues, any questions, comments?
Yes, one question, Madam President.
Yes, Councilman Westington.
Thank you so much. I know we have the income threshold with AMI. What's that dollar value look like for a family of 4 in the city of Gary?
Now, that is a really good question. For Gary First, it's about $55,000 for a family of 4 or 5. But for Gary First, we're actually looking for a minimum income level.
Gotcha.
And just to make sure that we're not putting people into homes that they can't necessarily afford. And so that's why now we have the two options of Emerson area, which will have a bit of a higher threshold, because we want the houses to look like Etna houses. So we're talking about the 2 stories with pointed roof at the top. And then we have the option of Etna, which will look like an Etna house, a 1-story, 2 or 3 bedroom that will be a little bit of a lower income threshold. So these funds are meant to support our employees, our residents in that journey.
Perfect. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to my colleague, and thank you to Ms. Hatcher. Mayor Melton.
Let me add some additional context to that. I think is important as we roll this out, which is probably going to roll out at the top of the year. I know a lot of questions may be asked of why we selected these specific neighborhoods, these communities. A couple of reasons. One being in the transit development districts of the train stations. That's one reason. The second reason is because of the neighborhood stabilization program that we kicked off at the beginning of the year. I believe Councilwoman Latham was there in Edna with the blight elimination, where we had Reith Riley, a variety of other contractors provide free blight elimination in that Edna neighborhood. We're going to do that again this January. So Edna will be completely blight free after this effort. So creating population density in these neighborhoods that's very close from turning the corner from being, vacated and of that sort. With the Emerson neighborhood, this is also, we've been in conversations with the Attorney General. I talked to the Attorney General actually day before yesterday about the program. Representative Hatcher presented this program to the Attorney General's office to partner with those GUEA locations as well. So again, both of these areas are in the transit development districts by the train station, trying to increase population density, layering on top the funding that we already have with ARPA, with our employees, then our citizens, then layering on top the land that we'll gift to them for just to kind of get them a heads up on that new development structure. So then it also ties into what we'll hopefully pass tonight with the infrastructure piece, street paving, sidewalks, curbs, and the street lights once all of the materials are in. So we're trying to layer all of these services into these neighborhoods with these resources. So I wanted to give that additional context to the public, to the council.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, any additional comments? Okay, perfect. I think we're good to go. At this time, I'll ask for the vote. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 8-0.
One vote of 8 yeas and 0 no. CPO 2024-95 passed and is so ordered. Oh, 94? Apologies. 94.
CPO 2024-95, an ordinance for the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations for American Rescue Plan Act Fund 2487 for housing opportunities, assistance to individuals, down payment assistance under negative economic impacts, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you. Colleagues, this is the companion ordinance for the appropriation of the initiative that was just discussed. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2024-95 on third and final? Thank you, colleagues, for the motion. Is there a second? Thank you so much, Councilman Barnes Caldwell, for the second. Any discussion, additional points? Vice President Latham.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to celebrate. I think these last 4 ordinances may be some of my favorite. I've said before, when we talk about the legacy of ARPA and what that meant to our city 10, 20 years down the road, we want to answer what we built. And then these last few ordinances, we're planning to build something, and I think we're building something that we can be proud of. Building houses, building quality housing developments in the city is something that we desperately need. So I've waited all year to get here to this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice President Latham. Any of my colleagues, additional comments or questions? Councilman Halliburton?
I'm sorry.
Okay, just kidding. All right. We're good to go. Very good. So I will ask for the vote at this time. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Halliburton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Latham?
Yes.
Councilman Washington?
Yes.
Councilman Whittington?
Yes.
And President Atkins?
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8 yeas and 0 no, CPO 2024-95 passes and is so ordered.
Madam President, has pending ordinance and resolutions.
And
on
that
second
wraps
reading.
up 2024. Mayor, we ain't seen you. We missed you. All right.
Miss you guys too.
I will ask my colleagues if you all have any lasting comments. I will conclude my comments after I give the opportunity for the mayor to speak. Mayor, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. I keep wanting to say members of the Senate. It's so hard to shake that part. It's just a habit. Let me just say that. Let me say thank you. I think tonight is an example of progress in the community of working together, even when we may have difference of thoughts and difference of opinion. We're still able to come together and move this city forward on behalf of the citizens of Gary. So I want to thank the council. I want to thank you for your patience and collaboration for this first year of the Melton administration. I want to thank our county councilman here. I see you over there, Councilman Brewer. I know that you hold this body in high esteem. And so we appreciate everything that you're doing in the county and all our elected officials. I want to thank the public and this body and everyone that offered their condolences to myself and my family during the loss of my father. Also, we've lost several people in our community over the last few days. So I just want to offer my thoughts and prayers to everyone that's experiencing loss during this holiday season. Just a hat off to the entire City of Gary team, the administration, from the leadership to everyone that worked hard every single day to try to provide a better and greater Gary. This is a team effort. We sent an email out earlier today that says we're going to finish strong. We still got a few more weeks left. There's still work to do, and we're going to set the stage for a great second year in this first term. So I want to just commend everyone and thank the public for their support. Thank the public for joining in on the volunteer efforts throughout this entire year that Markel Watkins has been leading in the Think Big volunteer program, and that's only going to grow. I think we have a lot of lessons learned in our first year that we're going to tighten up and strengthen to provide better service, to grow our population, to stabilize our population. In order to stabilize it, we have to provide better service and make sure that folks want to remain and stay in this community. But also, just like President and Vice President mentioned, we have to grow it by increasing our population, by providing housing. That's going to be a very specific focus of ours moving forward. We've talked a lot about blight elimination, and that's intentional because we have to set the stage for future growth and development. And right now, I'm happy to say that we're on the right track in making that happen. The amount of state and federal funding that's in alignment right now, I think is unprecedented for 1 year. And we're going to do the right thing by these dollars to make sure that the citizens can see that impact. I would be remiss, I know he's not specifically watching, but I said it before, when I thank Governor Holcomb, who has been a friend, who has supported and fought for Gary even when we don't realize it. But as we're going to definitely miss him as he goes and leaves into his new field of endeavors. I'll just say it that way. But I'm going to wrap up there. And new councilman, thank you so much. Congratulations on being here. I'm looking forward to working with you and everybody in 2025 and beyond. God bless. And happy holidays to the citizens of Gary.
Thank you, Mayor Melton. Not to just labor our adjournment, but Mayor had done a great job in terms of wrapping up the core initiatives, I should say, that the city collectively has supported in 2024. These were seeds that were planted that will flourish in 2025 as well as the subsequent years. And so I want to, for one, of course, commend the Melton administration, but my colleagues as well, for your support in getting these ordinances passed in the 9th, 11th, 10th hour, as you know, we have mentioned in previous committee meetings, to ensure that the mayor has the tools, the gusto to be successful. And so it is your leadership too that I appreciate. And I wanted to personally thank each and every one of you for supporting me in this role as your president for 2024. I have attempted to preside with poise and class, as I stated upon the onset of being sworn in. And to my residents of the 4th District, it has been such a pleasure for you to allow me to double in the form of a leader for the council and be able to reduce some of the day-to-day extraness that I used to do within the district. Thank you for your support, 4th District. And colleagues, it's a pleasure. I look forward to what we can do together in 2025 and beyond as well. This is just our first year of our tenure. And each and every one of you has brought such a unique treat to this council. It's been refreshing for the first time for me in 4 years. So I thank you all for your support. And in moments when I wasn't even sure if I should be here, you all have continued to give me the courage and the confidence to lead in this capacity. And so I thank the second Divine Nine of the Gary Common Council and everything that you do in your leadership for this city. Thank you. Thank you. So with that being said, we do wish our constituents a happy and safe holidays. We look forward to you joining us for the reorganization meeting of the Gary Common Council, which will take place on the same day as our first meeting of 2025, which will be Tuesday, January 7th at 5:30 p.m. And then the council meeting will take place at 6 p.m. directly after. Is there a motion to adjourn? Meeting adjourned.